Vaishnavi, you can start, ma.
Yes, Mataji.
I think I have to make you co-host.
ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपाय तदा मह्यं ददान्ति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण माता।
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So, how was your weekend?
It was good Mataji.
Okay. Vaishnavi, did what do you say? Vacation started for you?
Yes, Mataji. The April 1st only it started.
Okay. So, get prepared for the upcoming Ekadashi. Same thing, 26th. Okay.
Okay, Mataji.
Because only I think a few days is there. Tuesday I think we have to do.
Mataji, shlokas or the pranamantras?
You wanted to read slokas also?
Mataji, if it is okay, I will read. Or which one you are telling? I was asking.
Okay. Any one of your choice will accommodate.
Okay, Mataji.
Take big chapter slokas. That would be better. If you are completing one means at least those people can be spared for next what do you say, recitation.
Okay, Mataji.
Yeah. Vaishnavi, I think you have a list, no? Can we give a small Vaishnavi second chapter?
What did you say, Mataji? Actually, I was disconnected.
No. Vaishnavi wanted to recite the slokas. Can we give her second chapter?
Just a minute, Mataji. Let me check the list. Actually, there are 2 more chapters still remaining.
Mataji, you're mute.
Hare Krishna. I think we have completed chapter 1 or 1 and 2.
Chapter
1.
Mataji.
Huh?
We did chapter 1, Mataji.
Chapter
Okay.
1 Mataji.
2 we didn't do. Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah, tell me, Vaishnavi, which one are vacant now?
Yes, Mataji. 1 minute. Did someone said it for 11? Sai Gitika Mataji, right? Sai Gitika Mataji told to do 11 chapter, right? She said. So 14th and 15th are remaining.
Okay, those are small ones, no?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, big, I think we can give it to Vaishnavi, like second chapter. She will do it in 10 minutes.
The whole? Okay. Actually, I and Rachita Mataji would have done it.
Like 17 minutes.
Huh?
It was like 15 to 16 minutes, Mataji, in the video I recorded, that one on YouTube.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
Mataji, it takes that much time at least.
Yeah.
Last time also it took 15, 16 minutes only to recite. Even though Jignasa Mataji was not there.
Yeah.
Okay. So should I give it to Vaishnavi Mataji?
Yeah, Vaishnavi, she can take.
Okay. So can I take the 15th chapter, Mataji, then?
Yeah, you can take. Those are small chapters, and 20 slokas. Easily ho jayega.
So should I do the 14th chapter?
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Mine is chapter 3 and 14, no?
Just a minute, Mataji. Yes.
Okay, done.
I think the final list we can circulate.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
As such, nobody contacted me for the
Youth,
recitation.
it is very difficult, ma.
They're lazy, Mataji.
Not lazy. It takes some times. Once they get into the track, then they don't leave it.
Actually, most of my friends are really lazy about these things.
It's okay.
They pile up their schoolwork
It's okay.
or their college work.
Yeah, it takes some time, but it's okay. Chalo, shall we start?
Yes, Mataji.
If you wanted to leave, you can leave, ma. Otherwise, you can stay, Vaishnavi.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Is the font size okay?
Can you increase a bit?
How to increase here?
1 minute, Mataji.
Default language view. This is language.
In the settings, above
Mm-hmm.
one, beside the menu, there is font size.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Chalo.
Shall I start?
Yes.
Chapter 2, the first stages of devotion. The three categories of devotional service, which Srila Rupa Goswami describes in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, are listed as devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead. There are many subheadings in each of these categories. Generally, it is understood that in the category of devotional service in practice, there are two different qualities. Devotional service in ecstasy has four qualities, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead has six qualities. These qualities will be explained by Srila Rupa Goswami later on. In this connection, Srila Rupa Goswami suggests that the person eligible for Krishna consciousness or devotional service can be classified by his particular taste. He says that devotional service is a continual process for one's previous life. No one can take to devotional service unless he has had some previous connections with it. For example, suppose in this life I practice devotional service to some extent. Even though it is not 100% perfectly performed, whatever I have done will not be lost. In my next life, from the very point where I stopped in this life, I shall begin again. In this way, there is always a continuity. But even if there is no continuity, if only by chance a person takes interest in pure devotee's instruction, he can be accepted and can advance in devotional service. Anyways, for persons who have a natural taste of understanding books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is easier than for those who are simply accustomed to mental speculation argumentative process. To support the statement, there are many authoritative assertions by the learned scholars of bygone ages. According to their general opinion, a person may become governed by certain convictions derived by his own arguments and decisions. Then another person who may be a greater logician will nullify these conclusions and establish another thesis. In this way, the path of argument will never be safe or conclusive. Srimad Bhagavatam recommends, therefore, that one follow in the footsteps of the authorities. Here, a general description of devotional service given by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Previously, it has been stated that devotional service can be divided into three categories, namely devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead. Now, Sri Rupa Goswami proposes to describe devotional service in practice. Practice means employing our senses in some particular type of work. Therefore, devotional service in practice means utilizing our different sensory organs in service to Krishna. Some of the senses are meant for acquiring knowledge, and some are meant for executing the conclusions of our thinking, feeling, and willing. So, practice means employing both the mind and the senses in practical devotional service. This practice is not for developing something artificial. For example, a child learns or practices to walk. This walking is not unnatural. The walking capacity is there originally in the child, and simply by a little practice, he walks very nicely. Similarly, devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the natural instinct of every living entity. Even uncivilized men like the aborigines offer their respectful obeisances to something wonderful exhibited by nature's law, and they appreciate that behind some wonderful exhibitions or actions there is something supreme. So, this consciousness, though lying dormant in those who are materially contaminated, is found in every living entity, and when purified, this is called Krishna consciousness.
Please explain, Vaishnavi, before proceeding further.
So, in this chapter, in first paragraph, Srila Rupa Goswami says that there are three categories of devotional service, which are devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, devotional service in pure love of Godhead, which are further divided into 2, 4, and 6 qualities respectively. In the connection, Srila Rupa Goswami suggests that person eligible for Krishna consciousness or devotional service can be classified by a particular taste, as devotional service is a continual process. So once a person starts with a devotional service in particular life, he will get connected automatically in his next life. Or even if he hasn't started it in before life and takes interest into such books like Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, then he can easily go and have a shelter to a spiritual master to continue his devotional service rather than being accustomed to mental speculations or argumentative processes. Because once we give our own arguments and decisions, there is someone else who has a great logic who can nullify our conclusions and establish another thesis. So, as usual, Srimad Bhagavatam recommends that one should follow the footsteps of the authorities and the scholars from bygone ages. And further in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sri Rupa Goswami says that the services are of three categories, namely devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead. Yes, Mataji. Can you scroll up? So, in this paragraph, Sri Rupa Goswami tells us about the practice. So basically, practice means employing our senses as well as the mind in Krishna consciousness. Though not like here, the analogy is given: a child learns or practices to walk, which is not unnatural because he has the capacity, and with simply a little practice, he can walk nicely. So even the uncivilized men like aborigines also offer their respectful obeisances to something wonderful like the nature's law. And once they are free from the material contamination and the dormant Krishna consciousness awakes in them, then they finally reach to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And yeah, Mataji, that's yeah, I read till that.
Yeah, I think next Racheta can continue.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. So there are certain prescribed methods for employing our senses and mind in such a way that our dormant consciousness for loving Krishna will be invoked as much as the child with a little patience can begin to walk. One who has no basic walking capacity cannot walk by practice. Similarly, Krishna consciousness cannot be aroused simply by practice. Actually, there is no such practice. When we wish to develop our innate capacity for devotional service, there are certain processes which, by our accepting and executing them, will cause that dormant capacity to be invoked. This such practice called sadhana bhakti. So in this paragraph, they have explained about devotional service. So it comes from within the heart. It is not practiced. It comes from within the heart. We do devotional service out of love, and it is a gradual process. So this is known as sadhana bhakti. Mother, shall I start the next paragraph?
Yes.
Every living entity under the spell of material energy is held to be in an abnormal condition of madness. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, generally the conditioned soul is mad because he is always engaged in activities that are the causes of bondage and suffering. The spirit soul in his original condition is joyful, blissful, eternal, and full of knowledge. So we are, as we know, we are the part and parcel of the Supreme Soul or the Paramatma Sachidananda. Such is joyful. Such is joyful. Uh, Chit means knowledge, and Ananda is bliss. Ananda. So only by his implication in material activities has he become miserable, temporary, and full of ignorance. So as soon as we get this human body, we forget our original connection with God. So this is the cause of our sorrow. By we accept this body as if it is our own, but the body is like an upper covering. It's like a cloth which is wrapped around the body. So the soul is the body, and the body, which the material body, is the clothes. As we throw old clothes and wear new ones, that's the same thing. The soul transgresses from one body to another based on his karma. Mataji, haven't read it. Could you scroll up? Okay. So this is due to vikarma. Vikarma means actions which should not be done. Therefore, we must practice sadhana bhakti, which means to offer mangala arati, deity worship in the morning, to refrain from certain material activities, to offer obeisances to the spiritual master, and to follow many other rules and regulations that will be discussed here one after another. These practices will help one become cured of madness. As a man's mental disease is cured by the directions of a psychiatrist, so this sadhana bhakti cures a conditioned soul of his madness under the spell of Maya, material illusion. So all of us are under the clutches of Maya. So by chanting the Maha Mantra, Maya gets scared in taking control of us, gets scared to control us. So when we follow the sadhana bhakti, the process of sadhana bhakti, so Maya's power decreases eventually. Narada Muni mentions the sadhana bhakti in Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, first chapter, 30, verse 32. He says that he says there to King Yudhishthira, my dear king, one has to fix his mind on Krishna by any means. That is called Krishna consciousness. It is a duty of the Acharya, the spiritual master, to find the ways and means for his disciple to fix his mind on Krishna. That is the beginning of sadhana bhakti. So sadhana bhakti, it is done out of love and affection for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given an authorized program for this process, centered around the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This chanting has so much power that it immediately attaches one to Krishna. That is the beginning of sadhana bhakti. Somehow or other, one has to fix his mind on Krishna. The great saint Ambarisha Maharaja, although a responsible king, fixed his mind on Krishna, and similarly, anyone who tries to fix his mind in this way will very rapidly make progress in successfully reviving his original Krishna consciousness. Now, the sadhana bhakti or practice of devotional service may also be divided into two parts. The first is called a service according to regulative principles. One has to follow these different regulative principles by the order of spiritual master or on the strength of authoritative scriptures, and there can be no question of refusal. This is called Vedhi or regulated. One has to do it without argument. So when we are progressing in Bhakti Yoga, we have to follow certain rules and regulations. So in other words, we have to follow the ways of doing sadhana bhakti. So its first step is to chant the Mahamantra, which was prescribed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the devotee form of the Lord. And the first step of sadhana bhakti, first is we have to approach a spiritual master, and once a spiritual master accepts you, you have to follow the four regulative principles. This is called Vedhi or regulated. So one has to do it without argument. Another part of sadhana bhakti is called Raganuga. Raganuga refers to the point at which, by following the regulative principles, one becomes a little more attached to Krishna and executes devotional service out of natural love. The second part is sadhana bhakti is Raganuga. Raganuga, which means that one has has practiced the science of Krishna consciousness over the years and has no problem, and he carries out the four regulative principles properly. So that is known as Raganuga. So this comes in the Madhyatama Adhikari. The first step is the Kanishta Adhikari, second is the Madhyatmik Adhikari. I don't know I'm pronouncing it properly or not. But
No, you read only what is there in this.
Okay,
Don't try to
okay,
explain.
okay, Mataji.
Yeah.
Raganuga refers to the point at which, by following the regulative principles, one becomes a little more attached to Krishna and executes devotional service out of natural love. For example, a person engaged in devotional service may be ordered to rise early in the morning and offer arati, which is a form of deity worship. In the beginning, by the order of his spiritual master, one rises early in the morning and offers arati, but then he develops real attachment. When he gets this attachment, he automatically tries to decorate the deity and prepare different kinds of dresses and things of different plans to execute his devotional service nicely. Although it is within the category of practice, this offering of loving service is spontaneous. So the practice of devotional service, sadhana bhakti, can be divided into two parts, namely regulative and spontaneous. Mother, should I continue?
Yes.
Rupa Goswami defines the first part of devotional practice of Vaidhi Bhakti as follows. When there is no attachment or spontaneous loving service to the Lord, and one is engaged in the service of the Lord simply out of disobedience to the order of the spiritual master or in pursuance of the scriptures, such obligatory service is called a Vaidhi Bhakti, who follows the instructions of the spiritual master.
Yeah.
So these principles of Vedic Bhakti are also described in the Srimad Bhagavatam's second canto, first chapter, verse 5, where Sukadeva Goswami instructs the dying Maharaja Parikshit as to his course of action. Maharaja Parikshit met Sukadeva Goswami just a week before his death, and the king was perplexed as to what should be done before he was to pass on. Many other sages also arrived there, but no one could give him the proper direction. Sukadeva Goswami, however, gave this direction to him as follows. My dear king, if you want to be fearless in meeting your death next week, for actually everyone is afraid at the point of death, then you must immediately begin the process of hearing and chanting and remembering God. If one can chant and hear Hare Krishna and always remember Lord Krishna, then he is sure to become fearless of death, which may come at any moment. So, in the statements of Shukadeva Goswami, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. Therefore, Sukadeva recommends that one should always hear about Krishna. He does not recommend that one hear and chant about the demigods. The Mayavadis, impersonalists, say that one may chant any name, either that of Krishna or that of demigods, and the result will be the same. But actually, this is not a fact. Actually, to the authorized version of Srimad Bhagavatam, one has to hear and chant about Lord Vishnu and Krishna only. So Sukadeva Goswami has recommended to Parikshit Maharaj that in order to be fearless of death, one has to hear and chant and remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna by all means. He also mentions that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Sarvatma. Sarvatma means the super soul of everyone. Krishna is also mentioned as Ishvara, the supreme controller who is situated in everyone's heart. Therefore, if some way or other we become attached to Krishna, he will make us free from all danger. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that anyone who becomes a devotee of the Lord is never vanquished. Others, however, are always vanquished. Vanquished means that after getting this human form of life, a person does not come out of the entanglement of birth and death and thus misses his golden opportunity. Such a person does not know where he is being thrown by the laws of nature.
Hare Krishna. Next, I think Vaishnavi can read.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Suppose one does not develop Krishna consciousness in this human form of life. He will be thrown into the cycle of birth and death involving 84 lakh species of life, and his spiritual identity will remain lost. One does not know whether he is going to be a plant or a beast or a bird or something like that, because there are so many species of life. The recommendation of Rupa Goswami for reviving our original Krishna consciousness is that somehow or other we should apply our minds to Krishna very seriously and thus also become fearless of death. After death, we do not know our destination because we are completely under the control of laws of nature. Only Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the controller over the laws of nature. Therefore, if we take shelter of Krishna seriously, there will be no fear of being thrown back into the cycle of so many species of life. A sincere devotee will surely be transferred to the abode of Krishna, as affirmed in Bhagavad Gita. In the Padma Purana also the same process is advised. There is there it is said that one should always remember Lord Vishnu. This is called dhyana or meditation, always remembering Krishna. It is said that one has to meditate with his mind fixed upon Vishnu. Padma Purana recommends that one always fix his mind on the form of Vishnu by meditating and not forget him at any moment. And this state of Krishna consciousness is called samadhi or trance. We should always try to mold the activities of our life in such a way that we will constantly remember Vishnu or Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. Whether one concentrates his mind on the four-handed form of Vishnu or on the two-handed form Krishna, it is the same. The Padma Purana recommends somehow or other always think of Vishnu without forgetting him under any circumstances. Actually, this is the most basic of all regulative principles. For when there is an order from a superior about doing something, there is simultaneously a prohibition. When the order is that one should always remember Krishna, the prohibition is that one should never forget him. Within this simple order and prohibition, always all the regulative principles are found complete. This regulative principles is applicable to all varnas and ashramas, the caste and occupations of life. There are four varnas, namely the brahmanas, the priests and the intellectuals, the kshatriyas, warriors and the statesmen, the vaishyas, businessmen and farmers, and the shudras, laborers and servants. There are also four standard ashramas, namely brahmachari, student life, grihastha, householder, vanaprastha, retired, and sannyasa, renounced. The regulative principles are not only for the brahmacharis, celibate students to follow, but are applicable for all. It doesn't matter whether one is beginner, a brahmachari, or is very advanced, a sannyasi. The principle of remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly and not forgetting Him at any moment is meant to be followed by anyone without fail. If the injunction is followed, then all other rules and regulations will automatically fall into line. All other rules and regulations should be treated as assistants or servants to this one basic principle. The injunctions or rules and regulations and their resultant reactions are mentioned in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, verse 2 and 3. Kamasa Muni, one of the 9 sages who came to instruct King Nimi, addressed the king and said, the four social orders, namely the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras, have come out of the different parts of universal form of Supreme Lord as follows. The Brahmanas have come out from the head, the Kshatriyas have come out from the arms, and the Vaishyas have come out from the waist, and the Shudras have come out from the legs. Similarly, the Sannyasis have come out of head, Vanaprasthas from arm, the Grihasthas from waist, and the Brahmacharis from legs. These different orders of society and grades of spiritual advancement are conceived in the terms of qualification. Then it is confirmed by Bhagavad Gita that the four social orders and the four spiritual orders are created by Lord Himself in terms of different individual qualities. As the different parts of the bodies have different types of activities, so the social orders and spiritual orders also have different types of activities in terms of qualifications and position. The target of these activities, however, is always the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, He is the Supreme Enjoyer. So, whether one is a Brahmana or a Shudra, one has to satisfy the Supreme Lord by one's activities. This is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by a verse that reads, everyone must be engaged in his particular duties But the perfection of such work should be tested by how far the Lord is satisfied with such activities. The injunction herein is that one has to act according to his position, and by such activities one must either satisfy the personality, the Supreme Personality, or else fall down from one's position. For example, a Brahmana who is born out of the head of the Lord has as his business to preach the transcendental Vedic sound or Shabda Brahma. Because the Brahmana is the head, he has to preach the transcendental sound, and he also has to eat on the behalf of Supreme Lord. According to Vedic injunctions, when a Brahmana eats, it is to be understood that personality of Godhead is eating through him. It is not, however, that the Brahmana should simply eat on behalf of Lord and not preach the message of Bhagavad Gita to the world. Actually, one who preaches the message of the Gita is very dear to Krishna, as is confirmed in the Gita itself. Such a preacher is factually a Brahmana, and thus, by feeding him, one feeds the Supreme Lord directly. Similarly, the Kshatriya has to protect people from the onslaught of Maya. That is his duty. For example, as soon as Maharaja Parikshit saw that a black man was attempting to kill a cow, he immediately took his sword, wanting to kill the black man, whose name was Kali. That is a Kshatriya's duty. Violence is required in order to give protection. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna directly gave his order to Arjuna to commit violence on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, just to give protection to the people in general. Not to be confused with Kali, the demigoddess, who is the devastating feature of material nature. The Vaishyas are meant for producing agricultural goods, trading them and distributing them, and the working class or Shudras are those who haven't the intelligence of Brahmana or the Kshatriya or the Vaishya, and therefore they are meant to help these higher classes by bodily labor. In this way, there is full cooperation and spiritual advancement among all the different orders of society. And when there is no such cooperation, the members of society will fall down. That is the present position in the Kali Yuga, this age of quarrel. Nobody is doing his duty, and everyone is simply puffed up by calling himself a Brahmana, intellectual, or the Kshatriya, soldier, or statesman. But actually, such people are without status. They are out of touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are not Krishna conscious. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement is intended to set the whole human society in proper conditions so that everyone will be happy and take profit from the developing Krishna consciousness. Lord Sri Krishna instructed Uddhava that by following the injunctions of the social and spiritual orders of human society, one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as a result of such satisfaction, the whole society gets all the necessities of life imply, and therefore and without difficulty. This is because, after all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead maintains all other living entities. If the whole society performs its respective duties and remains in Krishna consciousness, there is no doubt that all of these members will live very peacefully and happily. Without wanting the necessities of life, the whole world will be turned into Vaikuntha, the spiritual abode. Even without being transferred to the kingdom of God, by following the injunctions of Srimad Bhagavatam and prosecuting the duties of Krishna consciousness, all human society will be happy in all respect. There is a similar statement by Sri Krishna himself to Uddhava in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 27th chapter, verse 49. The Lord says there, "My dear Uddhava, all persons are engaged in activities, whether those indicated in the revealed scriptures or ordinary worldly activities. If by the result of either of such activities they worship me in Krishna consciousness, then automatically they become very happy within this world as well as in the next. Of this there is no doubt. We can conclude from this statement of Krishna that activities in Krishna consciousness will give everyone all perfection in all desires."
I think Racheta can conclude with this. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Rachayita.
I guess she is unable to on her mic.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Yes, you can continue.
Okay, Mataji.
Okay.
Does that okay?
the-
Yes, Ratsaila Mataji,
Okay.
continue.
Thus, the Krishna conscious movement is so nice that there is no need of even designating oneself as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanapasta, or Sannyasi. Let everyone be engaged in whatever occupation he now has. Let him worship Lord Krishna by the result of his activities in Krishna consciousness. That will adjust the whole situation and everyone will be happy and peaceful within this world. In the Narada Pancharatra, the regulative principles of devotional services are described as follows. Any activity sanctioned in the revealed scriptures and aiming at the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are accepted by saintly teachers as the regulative principles of devotional service. If one regularly executes such service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master, then I gradually rises to the platform of serving in pure love of God. So in this paragraph, the Krishna conscious movement it believes in equality. It does not take into consideration of the caste system, whether you are a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanapal, Sannyasi. Anybody can join this Krishna conscious movement. Um, so the main purpose is to worship Krishna with your heart and any activities actioned in the revealed scriptures and aiming at the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is accepted by saintly teachers who are practicing the regulative principles of devotional service. And if he does it every day, so he naturally develops the love of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Actually, right now, Dikshit Prabhuji messaged me that he won't be able to join us on this Ekadashi. So I want Rachaita Mataji to do the chapter 4 and I'll give the 14th chapter to Aman Prabhuji, if it's okay, because he has done it before.
Yeah.
So what are my chapters?
4.
Mataji?
3 and 4.
Okay, I'll do it. 3 and 4. Okay.
Okay, I'll update the list and send it on the group now.
Okay, Mataji.
Yeah.
3 and 4. Okay, I'm good. Okay, I'm good with it.
Okay.
Okay. Shall we conclude with the saying the Narsimati?
Yes, Mataji. Shall I start?
Yes.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Prahladaladadayene. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankarnakhalaye. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato yami tato Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Narsimham Adim Sharanam Prapade. Tava Kara Kamalavare Nakham Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavadhrita Narhari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Thank you, co-host and participant, for your active participation. See you all